Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. David Teague just got sacked by the Carlton Football Club, or this morning, about 4 hours ago. Um, and we've got a lot to unpack from this as a Carlton supporter. Not happy with the move, but yeah, we've got a lot to unpack. Let's just dive right in. David Teague should still be at the football club right now. And I don't like the potential coaches that could come in. I honestly think David Teague was better for the job. Obviously an offensive coach at heart, and that's why we needed more defensively minded coaches around him. He's a first-time coach. He only had 2.5 seasons to get a good crack at it, and even then, he never had one full season, one full normal season at it. He had half a season where he went 6-5. He had another season which was COVID interrupted, and he had to go to the Gold Coast and whatnot. And he had another COVID season it was pretty much the same as the second, So I don't think he had a very fair go at it. Very disappointing to see them just cut ties with him. 2 years, we've had 5 coaches in the last 9 years. It's not going to work if you're lacking continuity. And that's the problem with this football club. They released the football department review, whatever, this morning as well, alongside the sacking. And they also have gotten rid of a couple of coaches. John Barker went earlier this year, and he was the stoppages coach. Dale Amos went today, and he's the defense coach. And Brent Stanton went a couple of days ago, and he's the midfield and transition coach. That means the ones left are the forwards coach, which is Cam Bruce, the development coach for the midfield, and I believe just the normal development coach, which is Luke Power. And then there's another development coach. But 2 of the coaches that I'd argue were our biggest problem have left the club. Well, obviously not the coaches, but their lines. The defense was shit for the majority of the year. And the midfield and transition coaches, or coach, he's also gone, and that was a big problem because we couldn't transition for shit. And our midfield, especially, I think we were one of the worst teams at stoppages. So, I mean, getting rid of those guys adds up, but the fact you're getting rid of the senior coach, right? I know he's responsible for making changes, and he let teams go on runs week in, week out. Like, I reckon I think it was 8 times this year that they kicked 6 in a row or something like that on the trot. But look, it's not all on him. It's not all on him. There are assistant coaches for a reason. They are there to assist your main coach, put forward suggestions, put forward, propositions you have, right? So look, this is not David Teague's fault at all. Look, very good decision to get rid of a couple of those coaches, but I believe we need a bit more. The board's lost a couple members, and whatnot, but John Barker was there since the Malthouse era, maybe prior to that. Dale Amos was there for 6 years, and Brent Stanton's been there for 4. So pretty much linked with our mediocrity seasons. But I still think the other couple coaches there are also linked. So interesting to see if there's going to be any improvement. I think Ross Lyon is the clear-cut favourite. Because in the damn press conference this morning, they said they are looking for an experienced coach. Why not a younger coach? But then again, we're getting rid of a younger, inexperienced coach. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense to get someone that's not experienced, but it's just the harsh reality that it looks like we'll get Ross Lyon based on, those words. And I mean, Ross Lyon, he sent Fremantle to a damn grand final, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, the final 4 seasons of his tenure, he did not make the finals at all. Is that due to an outdated system? That man is a defensively minded coach. Is that due to an outdated system? Ross Lyon is a defensively minded coach, but Brendan Bolton was also a defensively minded coach. And look what happened. I think another big thing that came out of the press conference is that it was told, we are going to make finals in 2022. That is the aim, right? So my question is this: why did you not give Teague one more season to run out his contract if you want to make finals in 2022? It does not make any sense to me. So if we get Ross Lyon and we don't make finals next year, what are you going to do? Are you going to sack him after one season? It doesn't make any sense to me, right? I would rather see Teague go for one more year, live out his contract. If he doesn't make finals, then obviously don't give him a new contract. But if your aim is to make finals by 2022, then why aren't you setting the goal for David Teague to do that? Just some other little things I picked up from the press conference. Generally speaking, the press conference was really counterproductive. I don't know what the point of it was. Was the point of it to talk about coaches? Was the point to talk about the review? Was the point to shit stir and, get questions out of the journos and not give them any answers? I don't know what the point was, right? But they weren't addressing anything. They weren't giving the journos an inch. Some of the questions were dog shit. Tom Brown just kept asking about Ross Lyon and Clarkson. Obviously, they're not going to say anything about that. I think that's just rocket science. But look, some questions that I reckon needed to be shown a bit of love weren't shown a bit of love. I think someone asked about the high performance department, and they responded with some broad statement about them talking about culture, football department, all that jazz. They weren't, going into specifics. I mean, I know you can't go into specifics, but at the same time, iron it down just a little bit. Because some members are watching this and we're like, well, what's the point of this? We're getting nothing out of it. You're saying stuff that we could have said ourselves, Another really interesting observation, there was a lot of discussion about like a burning desire to lift standards and talk about higher accountability and whatnot. And then someone asked the question, is David Teague hard enough? And he responds, I won't say anything about that. But you did say something about we want players to be held more accountable, So is that saying that they weren't held accountable enough? I think that's what it's saying. But then you won't say David Teague wasn't hard enough. I mean, obviously you can't throw people under the bus, but a lot of the things that were said didn't make sense. I think even questions like someone asked, how was David Teague feeling when you told him the news? And they said something about, I'm sure that, he'd be feeling numerous emotions and I empathize with that. Something like that is what they said. I mean, you can't even say how he was feeling. Was he disappointed? Was he sad? Was he relieved? I don't know. But you couldn't even say something like that. I mean, that's just going to show what the presser was basically, like, what lines it went along, Absolutely nothing being said. Nothing being given away, just discussion about, we're going to go for a coaching search tomorrow. And yeah, obviously it's going to be hard, but we're going to move on from this. Well, we could be back here next year. And it's just depressing because we're just mediocre. We've been mediocre with the board, mediocre in pretty much all the areas. But look, I think throughout the year, obviously the media absolutely gaslighted David Teague. And there are a couple of games that I think he was unfairly judged. The North game was obviously just horrible, right? We're in the finals hunt. We could have made finals and we just blew it. We lost by 40 points, one shit quarter, and it was out the window, right? But here's the thing. That game, our defense was trash. We gave away 115 points to North. But this is where I think our major problem was, in that game at least. Harry Mackay was not playing. We had no tools, except I think DeConning. We were playing Cripps and Kennedy as our first tool, right? So, obviously, our ball use going in the 50 was trash, right? It was just getting sat up, and Cripps and Kennedy are not they don't have enough forward craft to be able to win every one-on-one contest when you sit it up in the air, And that's, continuing on from that, we had pretty much small forwards all over the place. So all their tools are being occupied by double teaming and triple teaming Cripps, right? So, yeah, that was our problem. Those entries were useless, and then we were getting killed on the counter because we worked our arse off to get it forward, and it was just coming straight back out. There was no way to score. We kicked 11-11, And we got 6 of the goals in the last quarter because we had a key forward. If we had a key forward in that game, that could have been a reverse of the scoreline. You never know. Because Harry probably could have kicked, I don't know, I'm not saying probably, but he could have kicked 4 or 5 goals in that game. That would have helped us defensively somewhat because our entries were getting deeper, or they were getting trapped, or they were getting contested better. Something as simple as that, because Harry is taller and Harry can contest. Then we also have the Port game. The Port game, we had half of our list out. I mean, we already had half of our list out, and then we lost 6 players midweek. And we were playing this very inexperienced side. I don't know what people expected against Port Adelaide, you know. Port Adelaide were on a tear. And we sucked. And then we lost more players. But, I mean, that 19-goal run, there was no experience out on the field because, well, our co-captains weren't there. Obviously, Murphy needed a lot more support in his last game. It was a pretty poor effort. Obviously, we lost by 95 points. But, in saying that, our team was trash. We put out a mediocre side, so I'm not sure what we expected from that. What is David Teague supposed to do with a team that we put out? You know, we had Durden playing his first game, Kemp playing his first game, no Liam Jones, no Sam Doherty, no Patrick Cripps. The list goes on. Jack Martin out, Zach Williams out. You know, I mean, Jack Martin and Zach Williams, not great, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Obviously, I'm going to renew my membership, but like, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all ends up. The presser didn't give me any confidence with what they're going to do with it. They said something about a roadmap to high performance and high standards. The high performance ain't going to happen if your players are getting injured. You're not going to get the best out of your group if your players are getting injured. And then there was a comment about, to improve you need tension. I'm sure that's a great recipe. There's nothing better than having a disjointed relationship between your coach and your players. We're going to get some great improvement because, you know, we're driving the standards harder. At least that's what they said. They're going to drive the standards harder. And I mean, I like good accountability. I like high accountability if you make a mistake. But you don't want to do it in a way that disjoints your players and your coach. Because we're going to be in the same rut and we're going to get gaslit by the media next year if we are going into the buys at 4-8 again. Because there's a very high possibility that could happen. And, you know, then it'll be all the discussion about, well, David Teague wasn't the problem. It was the players, or it was the board. Because the selection committee as well, I don't know if that's board related. It probably is to some extent. But the board, the board is trash. But the selection integrity, dropping Dow in the last game of the season was not a good look. Why did we do that? There was no reason to not play Dow. He came on as a mad sub, but that's not the point. Cripps went out injured. So why aren't we playing Dow over Cripps? It's just really dumb. It shouldn't be like this. Honestly, if I can, you know, highlight the mistakes, if I can highlight that, you know, defense was lacking this year, then I might as well be making the decisions, you know? Because that's all I got out of the press conference. Them saying shit that we already knew about that I could have said myself. So I'm not very confident about this. Ross Lyon, probably favourite to be the coach. I'm not liking it at all. I would have loved Teague to stay. Give him one more year. He has not been supported at all. Yeah. But look, I'm happy he got out because he didn't deserve that. He deserved better. As a first-time head coach, you know, he's been an assistant around the league, but seriously, he should not have to go through this shit. Pretty farcical. There's nothing more to be said, you know. I mean, I like the delistings or the, you know, those retiring Murphy, Betts, and Casbolt. They needed to go. Casbolt needed to go, I think, the most, but Betts and Murphy, you know, it's a bit past them. The game's noticeably quicker, or they're noticeably slower. That's all I have to say about this. I could go on all day. I really could. But look, the predictions video will be out tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you're a Carlton supporter, you know, stay tuned for more Carlton stuff. We'll be doing this off season. And I'll be doing plenty of finals content. So if you want to see that, subscribe, drop a like, all that jazz. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, because I am very happy to engage in your conversation. But that is all from me. Yeah, Carlton suck.